What is your NSFW culture shock? Living in a poor AF village in SE Asia, seeing how many parents are okay with their daughters working as prostitutes in the city if it supports the family. I'm German, so I'm kinda used to nudity in some places, but Denmark took it to another level. How many people do coke? Not mine, but my American GF's first visit to Australia. Our tampons don't have applicators. Living in a small rural community surrounded by other small rural communities, the amount of secret swingers is astounding. I, a 35-year-old heterosexual male, started reading smut, and it is shocking how many women are reading smut, and how many of them will happily discuss the smut with me. I know it sounds ridiculous, but my biggest culture shock is hugs and kisses. I grew up in a family who doesn't show love through such means. The very first time I was hugged and kissed by someone, I literally froze and had absolute no clue on how to react. Aversion to condoms in US is a huge shock to me. Girls saying I'm on birth control, guys saying I'm on PrEP. That's great, but these things won't protect you from many infections and diseases, some of which could be asymptomatic. Not my culture shock, but my dad's. We were in the Bahamas and these two French ladies walked up topless and took seats in front of us. My dad proceeded to poke me and be like, "Look at the boobies." As his daughter, I told him to chill or the boobies would go away. When I was living in England in the late his early 10s, it shocked me how much more forward the women were compared to American women. If they wanted a hookup, they'd just tell you. No games, nothing. Was also odd seeing STD testing in nightclubs. Yow, just piss into a cup, they'd give you a drink coupon or something, and if anything was Amis yow, just get a call to let you know. I remember watching Eurotrip and them calling Americans prudes in that movie. I understood after living in Europe. The Japanese guy being interviewed, casually talking about how it's totally fine to be treated for multiple STDs and how he still goes to sex workers without condoms. He lists the multiple STDs he's gotten as if listing his favorite movies. And how lots of Japanese don't consider going to a prostitute as cheating. How many people cheat? I was having sex with a Greek gal, and their word for yes ni is my country's word for no. So when ni started sounding, I stopped pounding. We soon figured out the misunderstanding though, but I was very shocked and thought I was doing something horribly wrong there for a second. The first time I saw the Vermont naked bike ride. Went to a music festival in Denmark called Roskilde. It's 8 days of debauchery and good music, but a man needs to shower. So do the 100,000 others. So they have these sequins rigged with showers for the event. Not a big deal. It was while standing in line naked for the men's shower that I realized circumcision isn't nearly as common in Europe, and my little cashier was getting an abnormal amount of attention from the locals. Nothing outward, but a room full of penises, and I stood out, and it's not because of size lol. Edit, this is too many upvotes for a story about my penis. Swingers love to let people know they swing. So many pineapples around state campgrounds. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and in the Netherlands topless was the norm. I think I've seen almost all of my friends' mothers topless. It was normal in those days. Breastfeeding? Take off the shirt, pop out the boobie, or take off the bra and start feeding. No matter where you are. Nowadays it is a shock for me to see that almost nowhere nudity or topless is happening anymore, so a reverse NSFW cultural shock. When I was in my early 20s, I was shocked to learn that a lot of people just met and fucked. No dating. This is before Tinder or similar dating apps. People would just meet at a party, maybe have a few drinks, and fuck, never to see each other again. I always assumed there was at least one proper date involved before people did the wild thing. This is pretty minor compared to most of the posts on here, but it was a childhood-defining moment to the point that I still remember it clearly 25 years later. So my family immigrated to the US from a pretty socially and religiously conservative country when I was 9 years old. While we didn't have full-on burqas, women were dressed quite modestly compared to the US. So we get off the plane in Los Angeles, get through customs, and finally to the outside world, the U-shaped road in LAX. I remember it very clearly. The first thing that caught my attention in the outside world was a woman with beautifully large boobs wearing a low-cut, light blue tank top. In hindsight, she wasn't unusually dressed by American standards, but in the moment my male monkey brain was in sensory overdrive, having witnessed the most boobs I had ever seen. I must have been full on gawking because my mom half smacked me on the back of my head and scolded me for staring. I used to be a guy who made fun of guys who thought that the waitress baristakashirik who smiled and talked with them were like totally into them. Bro, loneliness will make you fall in love with a cute girl who says they like your shirt, Elmao.